things for today and take them up tomorrow when they are available. Only a few of you, I believe, have seen copies, but the majority are not. To deal with the votes and proceedings of our last sitting tomorrow, when copies, sufficient copies are made available. So let us get on with the next item.
Announcements by Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, since our last meeting in this chamber of Parliament, in plenary, a lot has been said and written on social media, particularly about the role of this current Parliament, and more especially about this particular sitting, and what is perceived by many to be its aim and objective. About my role in it as Speaker, and equally importantly, about the constitutional instruments and the Public Election Bill 2022 that are presently before us for consideration. Most of what I have read and heard on social media seemed to me to have stemmed from a mountain of mischaracterization, misunderstanding, and misinformation of monumental proportions about the work of this party. It is a big shame that as a nation that has earned self-rule as an independent sovereign nation for over 61 years, and had once been the pride of West Africa as the Athens of education, there are still in our midst adult men and women who deliberately and maliciously set out through political propaganda to manipulate and deceive the masses of our people. This is most lamentable, to say the least. So let me take this opportunity to make it abundantly clear that contrary to the hype given to the general public, the Public Elections Bill of 2022, currently before this House, does not introduce any new proportional representation into our law. The district block representation system, the form of PR, which is mentioned in the bill, was introduced into our laws as far back as 2001 by way of a constitutional amendment that was encapsulated in section 38A. Therefore, the debate about the PR system is not going to happen in this Parliament. Because it is already embedded in the laws of Sierra Leone. In the Constitution of Sierra Leone, the highest law of the land. Instead, honorable members, What the Public Elections Bill before this Parliament seeks to introduce is the empowerment of women to give them a justified consent. Is the empowerment of women to give them a justifiable say in the parliamentary affairs of this country by raising the percentage of their representation to a minimum of 30%. The bill also seeks to strengthen the independence of the Electoral Commission by making it extremely difficult to remove the commissioners from office. The bill also seeks to take away the prerogative power of the president to determine the date of elections by fixing a date for such elections, and these will now be set in the Constitution in the same way as is done in the United States of America. These are the main issues that should focus our attention. I propose to explain in greater detail to this House and to the general public the true nature and character of the instruments that are currently before this party, if only to enhance their better understanding and appreciation of both their content and their implications for the political development, peace and stability of our country. In this regard, I shall also call upon the leadership of all the political parties represented in this parliament to lend their respective voices in removing the cobwebs of misunderstanding and misinformation that seem to have surrounded the bills before this House. To join me in this assignment will be a hallmark of great leadership and a fitting performance of our collective duty to maintain peace and stability in this country and to promote, preserve, and protect the well-being and prosperity of all dwelling in it. This is the primordial duty that we all owe to the people of this country as members of Parliament and to this veritable institution of Parliament. I shall most certainly perform mine as and when necessary. For now, I shall just simply say here clearly and loudly, and the authority at my command as Speaker of this Parliament, and mindful also of the need to accelerate momentum in our consideration of the important bills currently before this House, that our unsuspecting compatriots within this country and around the world have been hugely and thoroughly misinformed, misguided, and misdirected. But as promised, I shall elaborate on this further when we get to that point. Also, at this crucial juncture, we should address what, in my opinion, constitutes the foundation upon which so much that is contained in the Public Elections Bill of 2022 comes. And it is imperative that first and foremost, we construct the foundation of the metaphoric building in the essence of the new electoral edifice. The Public Elections Bill of 2022 is to be understood and accepted by all and sundry. This is precisely the manner in which the order paper for today's sitting has been crafted. Suffice it, however, that I should make mention here of the egregious harm that has been committed by a certain individual who decided unilaterally and without my prior authorization to upload my personal telephone number on the social media. This singular act of his has caused me great harm. And it did not just stop there. It did not just stop there. It went on to exhort trade unions both at home and abroad to send messages to my phone about the perceptions they hold about the public elections bill and what they believe it is important to introduce into our body policy. To say the very least, these acts constitute as much intimidation and harassment as they were unwarranted and unnecessary, and in effect an invitation to anarchy under the guise of respectable journalism. Frankly, in my considered opinion, it is the most intolerable and unworthy display of reckless journalism. And I want to take this opportunity to condemn it completely and unreservedly, so that the individual concerned will be better advised in future to try to think twice before indulging in any more despicable and uncanny activity of this sort from the comfort of the environment of his overseas habitat. I hope, honorable members, that the word for the wise is sufficient. With that, we shall now proceed to the business of the day.
Speak up.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, two things. Firstly, on the other paper, we were expecting to see the new MP from Constituency 56 being sworn in this morning. We spoke about it, so I was hoping that we'll get that arranged this morning, Mr. Speaker. And secondly, I have keenly and attentively listened to your statements. And I want to say to a larger extent, you will have the role of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. When we come to that point, Mr. Speaker, when the debate itself is on, we will address it accordingly. But meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, for your guide and the guide of this House, we want you to avert your mind to Section 108(9)(b) of our Constitution, Act number 6 of 1991. The Public Elections Act is not just a bill, it is its public. That is what I want to say for now, Mr. Speaker.
The point you made about the swearing in of the new member of parliament. Is that taken?
Mr. Speaker, in the first place, I don't know, Mr. Speaker, except probably my friend is trying to introduce a new one. I don't know what he means by super bill before this House. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, it does not lie within our public at this point to decide to swear in any anybody that has won any election. It lies within our purview for now. Because as a matter of fact, it is for Parliament to receive a certificate. That's all. It's for Parliament to receive a certificate. And that communication should be done by the clerk. So as a matter of fact, we are in the chambers this morning to proceed with the business of the game. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, my friend knows as well as I do that when we appear in the chambers of the House, it is what is on the other paper that we are talking about. Except perhaps in the middle of government business in Cybermen. Otherwise, we cannot say anything outside. Thank you very much.
As I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, the words supervise are my words, and I said when it is time for debate, we'll bring that out. I also will attempt to avert your mind to a certain portion of the Constitution. But regarding the swearing of the member, Mr. Speaker, I know I said, and I am comfortable with what I said. I know for a fact I did not just make a statement, I made the statement after thorough investigation. And as I said, we left here on the last agenda when he was not here. So he does not I could not have said it. I could not have said it if I had not had a platform to say it. I did guidedly because I know the footing upon which we left. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I did not just talk because I wanted to talk, but we left on the specific footing, which is why I was convenient to rise and remind the Speaker of what we are doing upon. I will also confirm to you that a certificate has been sent to the office of the clerk. I confirmed that again with the clerk before making this statement.
You see, when we are in the chambers of the House, we should address the public. The public, Mr. Speaker, is listening. We should not be talking in riddles. As far as I know, all of this said is in riddles. Let's get our people to know exactly what we are saying. Let's get them to know. As I said, and I insist, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the clerk has not come to this chamber to tell us whether or not to swear in a new member of Parliament. What we should be discussing at this particular moment is the other paper.
Mr. Speaker,
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have really proposed that you asked us to talk to the commissioner. You sent a notice to all of us that we want the certificate to be issued so that we can get university training. Due to the holidays, we drafted the other people, we said email. So I was not informed by the clerk if I received it. So I promise you, ICT going to be tomorrow till Friday. The story will take place definitely. So I come here, I will contact the clerk, I get the certificate. So if you have a certificate, go ahead. I should have Mr. Speaker. So that's what we have to say now. And then we continue to proceed.
Mr. Speaker, on that note, I want to thank Mr. Government Business for not speaking business. I want to thank you. Based on what he has said, Mr. Speaker, I understand and I accept and we proceed.
Shall we then proceed with the day's minutes?
The Constitution of Sierra Leone, Amendment Act 2022, being an act to amend subsections 2 and 8 of Section 32 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, 1991. Introduction and first reading, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
members, I move that the bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2022 be read the first time.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2022 be read the first time. All of the people voting aye.
Mr. Speaker, before you do the question, please, before you put the question,
Yeah.
not for in the interest of focus, we have two amendment acts before us. And based on the first reading, the statement of the first reading, and I'm waiting for your own statement for the question. It is not clear which one. It is not clear which one. And we cannot do both together. And it's not clear which one. That's no. Mr. Speaker, it's not clear which one.
Honorable member, do you have your other paper? Before the bills, you have the other paper. And the other paper clearly indicated the section of the Constitution
Mr. Speaker, as the other paper stated, there is no reason for us to deviate. The reading, the statement, the first reading, should not deviate from what is contained in the paper, because it's for records. This other paper is not even records. But the program proceeds. What he has read now will be included in the program proceeds, and even the answers. But the other paper will not be in the answers for records. So there's no reason for us to deviate from the content of the paper. Read it as contained on the paper, and that one will be included in the answers that will be used in the next 50 years. For this one, after today, it will be started.
the Attorney General
Mr. Speaker, I will follow through what Mr. Speaker had the other paper on me. And the presumption is the first bill that is applicable is pursuant to the other paper. So I follow through the other paper, Mr. Speaker. But I'll still go through again for expediency. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move that the bill entitled Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2022, being an act to amend subsections 2 and 8 of section 32 of the Constitution 1991, be read the first time.
Thank you, learned attorney. Honorable members, the question is that the bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2022, being an act to amend subsections 2 and 8 of section 32 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone 1991, be read the first time. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act has been read the first time. Second reading.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move that the bill entitled Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2022, being an act to amend subsections 2 and 8 of section 32 of the Constitution 1991, be read the second time. Mr. Speaker, the proposed bill for the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2022 seeks to amend section 32 for two reasons. In subsection 2, to review the composition from 4 other members to some other members appointed for each electoral region. B, in subsection 8, by replacing the word misbehavior with misconduct. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I move that the bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2022 be read the second time.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill entitled the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Act 2022, in an act to amend subsections 2 and 8 of section 32 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone 1991, be read the second time. I thought that the chairman of the legislative committee is here.
Yes, but please,
No, I'm coming. Do you have anything to say before I open the debate?
yes, Mr. Speaker. It's going to be very short. Honorable members, we're here today again as representatives of the people. We have in front of us a progressive bill that seeks to amend some of the odds we had before. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just fine-tuning. When we look at subsection 2, it's about making provision for what we had that we have not reaffirmed. We created a 5th region, but we have no commissioner for that. We are not asking for anything new, anything extraordinary, just to ensure that we do the needful. That's not contentious. It's having the people in the right interest. When we have subsection 8, we have already in the Public Elections Act of 2012, it mentioned misconduct, but proper provision was not made for it. So this morning, what we have here is just to reaffirm what we already have It's not contentious. We just need a move forward. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, a few minutes ago, my colleague on this side was insisting that the Attorney General read the exact words on the other paper on the bill. I got up just to point out that when the Attorney General, the Attorney General did, he omitted the word gross. He said the words should be changed from misconduct, from his period of misconduct. But the important word is this whole amendment. It's the word gross. What does it mean? Me on this side believe that if there is going to be a change, it must be explained to us and the country what is the difference what is the difference between misbehavior and gross misconduct? What does misbehavior mean? What does misconduct mean? And the word to qualify what is gross. Why is the change necessary? There's all we want to do. We are not there just to oppose an amendment. And in that section again, there is an attempt to remove the word for, F-O-U-R, to such. This has not been explained to us. It's not a question of whether there should be a new province or a new district, etc., etc. The bill deals with who should be the Plan Commissioner. Just to say such, is that not open-ended? Is that not to 20? 50. Well, the original position in the Constitution, the number was identified as 4. So what are we to have? We need to this thing to be certain. Mr. Speaker, under Section 73 of the Constitution, the purpose of legislating is for us to make laws for the peace, security, order, and good government of Sierra Leone. We are here in this way. We have been here since last week. We can remember what happened. Today we are coming here. The number of security officers that are around the edge of the building far exceeds us who are in there. The reason is the contention in this amendment and in the bill. It shows that the nation, the members of parliament, are aware that the amendments that are being proposed are not for the provision or the passing of the law that will bring for peace, security, order, and good government. That is why there is this challenge, not only here, but all the country. Mr. Speaker has made a statement telling us of the good of the amendment proposed. That we respect your opinion, but we believe that your statement was premature. We know we are experienced enough to look at. The whole of the speaker is to be an independent answer. We do not take it kindly that you have made a statement stating your choice. Mr. Speaker, that is not right. You thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the floor. sensitive the fact that as the occupier of this house, it is your primary responsibility to educate the public. You started your submission this morning by stating that you are reacting or you are trying to correct social media media houses misunderstanding and misrepresentation of what we want to do today. And one of that misconception is the fact that there has been an assumption that this house, this fifth parliament, is trying to bring a new provision into the constitution, which you have expertly explained that yes, there are in section 38(1) and 2, but additionally, the amendment of the constitution in 2002 ushered in section 38, in which you have explained expertly. For that is point, Mr. Speaker, I want to take the cue from the chairman of the legislative committee. Mr. Speaker, I see no reason why we should bother on subsection 8 of section 32. Because already the big before us, Public Elections Act of 2022, seeks to amend the Public Election Act of 2012. And the Public Election Act of 2012. Sorry, sir. Section 5. Section 5 of the Public Elections Act of 2012 exactly states the provision of the constitutional amendment made before us by the Honorable Attorney General. So I see no need why we need a constitutional instrument when the 2022 Act that is causing any consternation is already stated expertly and word for word. Gross misconduct in subsection 5, in section 5, subsection 1 of the 2012 Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I want to observe, sorry, sir. I'm sorry. It is very important. He has raised the concern about gross misconduct mentioned in section 5 of 2012 Public Elections Act. It means there must be an instrument that amended section 32(8). 32(8). That is asking us that we have used gross misconduct in the parent act. So we need it in 2012. So for us to discuss it again, I think as a superfluous. So we have to use my colleague on the other side can help. We have it here. You know what I get it? Let me read the provision. Second by. Mr. Speaker, section 5, state 6, Public Elections Act 2012. I read, Mr. Speaker, correspond to subsection 8 of section 32 of the Constitution. A member of the Commission may be removed from office by the President for inability to discharge the function of the office, whether arising from infirmity of mind or body or any other cause, or for gross misconduct. I made a picture read, I want to read a constitution, section 32, subsection 8, I read. We want to be consistent and homogeneous the whole laws. This is an act of parliament. We are saying there must be an amendment to the constitution before enacting it. Otherwise, parliament must have done something wrong. I'm not debating, sir. I don't want to, I need direction from Mr. Speaker. I beg. Let me read section 32, subsection 8. I'm following the question posed by Honorable Tan. We don't want to embarrass Parliament. Let us do that very quickly. Mr. Speaker, the provision they are seeking to amend and is already enshrined in section 5 of the Public Elections Act 2012. Section 8. A member of the Electoral Commission may be removed from office by the President for inability to discharge the functions of his office, in bracket, whether arising from infirmity of mind or body or any other cause, or for misbehavior in the Constitution. So we don't know what's happening. Now again, we are here, we want to amend the same provision of the Act. We need direction. Either we go with the 2012 Act, Forget about the bill and endorse this one, the instrument. But we cannot be seen making two laws without authority. I raise my case and seek a clarification.
Going back to the question of the second, we're dealing with what is before us.
Point of order. Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious city. I know we are not just to get the conclusion of the business of the day. I'll plead with everybody out. We are invited people for the forum, from all political parties and stakeholders. I'm begging, please let us have maximum development in this chamber today. For the sake of this nation, that's it, be quiet, please. For the sake of the nation, we want to hear us. Let us have to speak, so that the speaker can make a clear judgment for the issue. Thank you very much. I beg you, don't be quiet.
Mr. Speaker, it is clear that we have to see before us. What is before us is a bill with a provision to amend the Constitution by using the word misbehavior to gross misconduct. If the leader and honorable concept from Northern are saying that it has been done before by Section 5 of the 2012 Act. Why are we here? What are we to amend the 2012 Act when it already was misconduct? What is this? What are we here? This is what we are saying. When you want to do things, do it right. The 2012 Act, for what the leader has made, so it's supposed to have amended it. So what are we doing now? Amending the 2012 Act or amending the Constitution? If what I said we are amending the Constitution, then this paper does not want to solve the price of the paper that is being written on. Because I don't need now saying that it can be amended before, then there is no need for an amendment. What is this for? That is the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I can just move away. Citing the Constitution of the he said, when we started his own business, he said, just have constitutional instruments for the business. So I think I read this out of the constitutional instrument, amended that vision. But we did not see it at all. We did not see it at all. So my colleague on the other side, I will just explain that question to them. It is legal, a debate for us to be constitution. Homogeneity of the law is constant, but not invoking the constitution. If don't see the clear section 161, subsection 15, that any law in the constitution supersedes any other law. And if we are not saying constitutional instrument, this one is not valid. It's not valid. So that's why we are asking that it's all here already, but we don't have a constitutional instrument. So bringing it is like we are trying to correct something. It's not correct. So I think, Mr. Speaker, I think the clarification we are seeking, we are under the previous administration, where is the constitutional issue amending section 32, section 8 of the constitution, addressing the because they have not in this act, now it's conflict with the constitution. So I leave you with the one question or answer. What's going on what can you do on this particular provision? Thank you.
So, Speaker, all what we are seeking just to know is true from the opposition. If they are arguing. The law, of course, my colleagues on the other side know that he who attacks approves. If you are saying that there is a constitutional instrument to that effect, maybe you would have done justice by requiring that instrument. But nothing has been said so far related to the constitutional instrument. So we are waiting.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Since this morning, nobody has asserted that there was a constitutional instrument in 2012 amending this particular part of it. Nobody has asserted. And Mr. Speaker, may I say, Mr. Speaker, may I say that we have mentioned times without number that there is no perfect law, and laws are only relevant when they are triggered. We have mentioned it without number. Mr. Speaker, we keep referring to previous administration. In 2012, when this act was passed, myself and the government business were in this house. We were in this house. Mr. Speaker, we were in this house when this document was passed. As I said, I referred to the Christian saga during the last sitting, that before last elections, Tutsi was not an issue. We had so many Tutsi in this house. It was only when it was triggered before the 2018 elections, it became an issue. Now that this has been picked up, 32 is now an issue. We must deal with it and we have to address it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable, in 2012, this bill was done by the Parliament. Speaker, today, Mr. Speaker, Honorable, what simply this Parliament is doing is correcting the wrongs of the past. I think there is no we should not have contention here with the Speaker, Honorable members. The fact that the Honorable member from Confused have said their own particular, and we have realized there was a lacuna in this. They use this act to amend the Constitution. Simply what we are doing as the Parliament is to amend the Constitution in the proper way. That is why the Attorney General and Minister of Justice has brought up the constitutional amendment of 32A. So we should be together in this honorable member. There should be no contention. It has been amended before that, and the wrong procedure was used, and we have been the right procedure, honorable member. So to speak out of the member, I want to tell my colleague from Longley, who said this law was amended using the Election Act of 2012, and today we are doing the proper means of amendment. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, may I say something? We need to be guided. It is very clear, as the leader said earlier, if you have a law that is inconsistent with the Constitution, it is no tools. So this law in 2012 could have been challenged in court if anything had risen up. But fortunately, no commissioner was sacked or asked to sit aside. Basically, there was a law in 2012, but the law was no tools. That is the point, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. We wanted, the difference between we tend to do the right thing. We tend to do the right thing. And that has been our motive, that has been our principle. So, in the interest for us strengthening the electoral commission, as you rightly stated in your vision, we know something has gone wrong sometime somewhere in 2012. Let us proceed in our bid to strengthen the electoral commission. Mr. Speaker, that is why we are doing the right thing now. But I think we are coming to the other side. Since we are that something went wrong, I don't want to say on that day, I'm on record, that I objected because the commission. Mr. Speaker, I objected. You see me? See for you. We are all guilty of being supportive of the other. As you said, there is no pocket law. So they are all set to be right so that we cannot be in conflict with the Constitution. I clearly agree with the leader of the opposition, and I want all of us to support instructing the commission institution, the National Election Commission. So let us proceed, Mr. Speaker, to leave. Please, we want you to help us proceed now. Thank you.
So, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I start Mr. Speaker, please. See, this morning is the first time I'm standing up, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, if I can take the cue from the deputy leader of government, there should be no need for this issue to be contentious, as he rightly stated. But however, that does not preclude Honorable from Western Area to require or request the Landed Attorney General to at least help and find the problem. We are here legislating. He is asking, firstly, some of the provisions here are open-ended. And legislating, we must ensure certainty and clarity. Laws must be certain and precise. And then secondly, this issue has only become a controversial issue now because the current opposition in Parliament is a very effective opposition. While in 2012, the opposition then, I don't know whether they will but this opposition this time around is a very effective opposition. Thank you very
The current opposition is very active. Mr. Speaker, it shows that those of us sitting on this side, representing the government, we know exactly what we are doing. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable from constituency was asking, why are we here? We are here because we have responsibility under Section 44. Mr. Speaker, we have to make law for the regulations of presidential, parliamentary, and other related elections. And in doing that, we have to be sure that the extant law, that the 2022 law of bill seeks to amend or to repeal is consistent provisions in that law. Because, however, as members of parliament, we have repealed laws in the house. And those laws that will be repealed, it's not as if we take off all the other provisions that are in those laws. We manage between those that are in existence that are good and those that are in existence that we think needs to be progressive. And part of those progressive positions, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that we need not to waste time on the provision that is already in existence. And Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday last week, you made mention of a very critical disposition here, that amending the Constitution without going through the process stated in Section 1A It's feasible. Mr. Speaker, we cannot become into believing that the position on the other side is easy to accept as we are going to restate subsection 1 of section 5 of the 2012 Act. We have to consistent, and for us, in the spirit of section 44 of the Constitution, we want to get that the constitutional instrument before us, seeking to amend subsection 8 of section 32 is not an void issue, because already there is a provision in the extant law that covers that, and for us, as members of parliament, we think we not to waste the time of the public and the taxpayer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Before I call on any other speaker, you made reference to the 2012 law. Honorable, will you read the precise what that is contained therein?
The area of government business has gone well. Subsection 1 of section 5 of the Public Elections Act of 2012. It says, pursuant to subsection 8 of section 32 of the Constitution, a member of the commission will be removed from office by the president for inability to charge the functions of the office, whether arising from infirmity of mind or body or any other cause, or for gross misconduct. Gross misconduct is what is stated in the constitutional instrument that is invariant with the provision of subsection 8 of 2, which states misbehavior in the Constitution.
Mr. Chairman, can I invite Parliament? Mr. Zor, will you please? It's very clear to my mind that the Constitution speaks of misbehavior as a ground for removing a commissioner. As one of the grounds, misbehavior. And there is no definition of misbehavior there. But in 2012, it seems there was a change of heart. Because obviously, misbehavior and gross misconduct cannot mean the same thing. Cannot mean the same thing. One is stronger than the other. So, Mr. Attorney General, I can see where you are coming from. Maybe you want to elaborate further for the edification of the House and the general public.
Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, we have enough time for the purpose of speed. Yes, sir. At the end of the second reading, he will have to respond. Rather than going back and forth, this thing is clear. I think in years' time, the rules make provision for him to respond adequately. Rather than coming now, and he will have an opportunity to come later again.
You know, on this specific point,
He will respond, sir.
allow me now,
All right, sir.
let it be clear that the language of the Constitution is misbehavior, which is very weak by any definition. 1991E. Indeed, I don't know where you were then. Obviously, there was a change of about 2012 to make it more difficult to remove a commissioner, and hence the insertion of gross misconduct in the 2012 Act. But it's inconsistent, obviously, with the Constitution to the extent that the two words do not mean the same thing. So again, I will call on,
Just to clarify,
by all means,
thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
Hold on, man.
Mr. Speaker, time is past 12. I therefore move that the speakers will try to continue the business of the House.
Thank you. I second that to that motion.
I so second, Mr. Speaker.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, we.
Mr. Speaker, we are here to legislate, and we have guides. One of them is in a matter of objects and issues. What you find there in the ultimate line is that the subsection, replacing that subsection with a new subsection and killing the word misbehavior and substituting the word was misconduct. This is all I was saying, and we should be consistent. The line that the general mentioned, misconduct. I also believe we just to remind you the words they are displayed was misconduct. But if our colleagues on the other side are saying that it was amended in 2012, but that amendment was wrong, they cannot say that. It is not until the wrong in that law is wiped out. That is the law. It is the law. Some of our colleagues over there came into this parliament under this 2012 Act. Are we saying that in Kenya only? They came under the bill, the 2012. But the law is the law. That's not that way. So how are you here to amend something that was amended?
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, let me clarify something. We on this other side, you say it was amended. It was inserted